Just kidding, seriously though. Go Trojans. Well, thank you all for coming out. I know the weather just really, hinders people in LA from doing anything. So everyone here, you have a good New York spirit. Thank you. It's an honor to be here tonight and a pleasure. Before I bring one of the heroes of hip-hop, certainly one of my biggest heroes of hip-hop of all time out, I want to just kind of go over a little bit of the history as to why I put this book together. This is my second book, Legends of Hip-Hop. Back in the days, when I was young, not a kid anymore, but some days. Thank God, you know what I mean? I grew up on the Upper West Side, what we like to call the Upper Best Side of New York City. This is the South Bronx during my time. That's crazy, right? Looks like a third world. You know what I mean? It looks like, a bomb hit it. That was the Boogie Down Bronx. Anyone from the Bronx? Wow, one person. Boricua, right? Of course. Of course. Go ahead. So this was the entire landscape of the Forgotten City. In 1977, Gerald Ford told the city to drop dead. That was the attitude. It was before Occupy Wall Street, before Occupy LA. New York City was really in shambles, and that was really responsible for the forming of our hip-hop culture. That right there was even on the cover of Time magazine when we had riots, fires, and of course the infamous 1977 blackout. And that was just crazy. It showed a lot of people were really desperate. There was a lot of haves, but there was more have-nots. That's actually the king of DMC right there. No kidding. You guys are like, really? But that is Grandmaster Flash. The first turntable, right there. It's a weird one. But that was the whole kind of vibe of New York. I mean, it was real desperate times. So desperate, my brother right here is stealing a mattress. No place to sleep. When this Dominican guy is stealing just a weird pole. Probably went home like, yo, Ma, look what I got. It's like, what the hell is that? Why did you steal that? What's wrong with you? Yo, it's like a pole and shit, right? Why don't you take something practical like a mattress and some shit like that? Well, no me grites, no me hables, no me toques. But on the real, I mean, New York was going through really, really horrible times. And so, from that, really witnessing that entire world, I was a professional b-boy, not only at bar mitzvahs, but I danced around the world. I danced with the Dynamic Breakers, I danced with New York Express, I was, touring. I was a graffiti writer, as you probably can imagine from my style. And you guys know this image? You can give it up. Okay. This was because it was my world. I was doing a lot of jazz imagery, and I told my distributor at the time, I said, yo, I really want to paint something that's from my culture, because I was around DJs, I was a b-boy, I was around a lot of MCs, I was around a lot of beatboxers, and he was, he sounded a lot like Woody Allen, by the way, so he was like, I think that's a horrible idea. First of all, it's going to be, who wants, somebody who scratches at all, you know what I mean? It's not going to sell, it's going to be the complete death of your career. Not that I'm afraid of dying, just want to be there when it happens. And I said, yo, just give me a chance. Just give me an opportunity to put something out that I love and value so much of this culture. And I did, and it was incredibly successful. And it was the first poster ever of any kind of hip-hop imagery at all. I did the first DJ, I did the first breakdance painting in 1981, if you guys are familiar with that piece. I did the first MC piece, I did the first graffiti writer that I called The Artist. So, I was really the first person to do it in the poster format, because it wasn't just my vision of the culture, it was an entire generation. It was collectively our vision. So I would say, I'm an artist for the people, by the people, and of the people, because I paint really for all of you. And I knew that after my first book, does anyone have my first book, The Beauty of Urban Art? Which was really about how I, experienced the culture, and subsequently the culture birthed my work. So my second book, I said, has to really be about all those people that I love and I admire so much. Because historically, all artists, that's Velasquez, that's not mine, I wish it was, but people are like, oh, he's really good. Historically, artists have always painted the important people of their time. That's Velasquez's Pope Innocent X. And by the way, I try to get really fucked up low-res JPEG so my work looks good next to these, and it doesn't at all. So, and I'm not being humble, I'm being honest right now, because these are some of the greatest paintings ever, but that's what they did. The artists, painted for the nobility. They painted the important people. That's Hans Holbein's King Henry VIII. And we might not even know who King Henry VIII is if it wasn't for his painting, because his painting was so important that it transcended history, transcended art history, and really kind of etched itself indelibly into our imagination. Like, we don't know anything about King Henry's wives or the fact that he had 2 of them executed, but most of us do know this image. It's an important painting. So art has always really captured, those important people. Van Dyck's Charles I, nobility. People know this painting by John Singer Sargent. That's Madame X. She was a socialite. We don't know about her infidelities, but we know about this painting because it just really is larger than life. Mona Lisa, Sistine Chapel. That's Picasso's painting of Gertrude Stein. Of course, no one thought it looked like her, including herself. She said, that doesn't look like me at all. And he said, no, I know, but it will. Which I thought was very interesting. And John Singer Sargent said that every time I paint a portrait, I lose a friend. That happened to me during this book. That's another story. That's how I lose friends lecture. Because the artist really should not just paint the superficial, but great artists will penetrate the surface and go and grab the spirit of the sitter. And that's what I did with this book, and I felt it was really, really important to capture all of these incredible, incredible people. Some of them who are personal friends of mine, some of them obviously like Pac, who I never met, Biggie, who I never met, but all who are extremely important. People who have shaped the way we dress, the way we think, the way we talk, the way we walk, the way we vote. So I said, no one has really put a compilation together of these people who are heroes. So I came up with a list of 50 of my personal heroes, some of whom you will, agree with, some, others you will not. But these people were really, really important to me. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce one of those people who, I was a hip-hop deadhead, and I was a Run DMC real deadhead. I followed them, I was weird, I followed them at a lot of shows. I went everywhere they went. I was just like, they changed my life. Without Run DMC, I don't think that I, would have been painting this imagery. I really don't. Because they were so powerful. They were the beginning of the globalization of the culture. Run DMC was the first to go gold, the first to go platinum, the first to have a sneaker endorsement deal, my Adidas. The first to be on the cover of Rolling Stone. People didn't know that. The first hip-hop group to be on MTV. Yeah. How about that? They're inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, of course. The second group ever. They were insanely important. First to do Live Aid, the first to do Farm Aid, They were the first. They brought hip-hop into the living rooms of America. It's an honor and a pleasure to introduce one of my personal heroes from the greatest group. They are our Beatles. They're our Beatles, yo! From the greatest group of all time, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the King DMC! One, two. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Mic check, 1, 2.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
DMC, ladies and gentlemen. Woo. So, the way this is going to go down is I'm basically going to show a bunch of slides from the book. Don't try to sneak out because he's actually doing a performance after this, which is ill. I heard sound check and I was like, are you serious? Are you really doing that one? That's genius. We're just going to go through and, just having a legend in our presence is really great because this man holds an encyclopedia of knowledge of our history. He's a real hip-hop aficionado. So
I'm just a fan.
No.
Big words. I just love it like y'all love it.
Yeah. So here we have James Brown in my book. A lot of people are like, oh, I can't believe you painted James Brown. I'm like, why? Funky drummer, most sampled, in hip-hop history. 1,200 of his songs are sampled in hip-hop. So technically, without James Brown, there might not be hip-hop, period, point blank, in the story. Am I right?
I was just going to say that. There would be no hip-hop if it wasn't for James Brown. Sorry to say, funky drummer breaks.
Did you use any in your songs?
All of them.
Which one?
Run's House. Funky drummer.
Whose house? Okay.
What else? A bunch of them. Jay, can you help me with that? No. James Brown was like the foundation of the hip hop because, the DJ, he had jazz in his crates, and he had, we had rock and roll in the crates, and there was, disco in the crates, and a lot of DJs would play the disco beats because there was always a bass line to rap over, boom, 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 ba-da-ba-dum-bum, and the MC could run his mouth. But disco was disco. James Brown was funky. James Brown had the attitude and the feeling and the vibe of what hip-hop was completely about. And it was even more than just the music, because the funky drummer breaks was something that the b-boys and dancers loved.
That's right.
So you had every type of music that was being utilized by the DJs and MCs to rap over, but it was the James Brown funky drummer breaks that was the foundation of the beats, the rhymes, and the breaking. No James Brown, no hip-hop.
Yeah, you asked about the original b-boys. You talk to Lay, Spy, Ken Swift, they'll tell you the same thing. A lot of the moves that they took were borrowed from James. So that alone tells a lot.
Even the attitudes of, you think about James Brown, he's a great performer, but, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Talking about the issues and the emotions that was going on. Like, everything James Brown represents was represented in, when you looked at the first pictures that Bush showed you. This is the South Bronx. Disco wasn't having that emotion that we was living in a war zone, in poverty and crime and everything. And even though it was bad for us, disco was kind of, disco's cool, Saturday Night Fever, John Travolta, Studio 54, but we don't get to go in Studio 54. You had Hollywood coming over to New York. They was leaving Hollywood, coming to party at Studio 54, because if you think about it, hip-hop now is just like disco was back in the day. Bling, bling, Rolls Royces, naked women partying, and it took this sound of music, and it took young people, 12 to maybe like 22 years old, with these rhythms and a style and an art, to say to the world, Studio 54, yo, that ain't the truth of our existence, and that's what happened.